profound. If you've ever wondered why the Sigma heart can feel like a distant horizon, or why love with a Sigma man can feel both exhilarating and disorienting, you're not alone. Imagine standing on the shore watching a sunset that no one else seems to notice. You're drawn to it, not because it shouts, but because it whispers. That's the Sigma way. In relationships, Sigma men don't follow standard scripts. They don't mirror what others do. They craft their own emotional currents, subtle yet deep, quiet yet constant. At first glance, this can feel odd. Why aren't they like anyone else, you might wonder? Why doesn't a Sigma male follow the same romantic rhythms we're taught to expect? That's because his connection is grounded in authenticity, introspection, and a fierce sense of independence. It's not indifference. It's not detachment. It's simply that Sigma men love on their own terms, terms shaped by a mind that values personal space as much as emotional closeness. Their love may not look normal because it isn't, but therein lies its peculiar value, in the soft-spoken gestures, the unexpected depths, and the silent loyalty. In this video, we'll gently explore 8 quietly powerful reasons why Sigma males in relationships are the furthest thing from normal. Not in a dramatic, flashy sense, but in a grounded, introspective way that invites you to reconsider what love can be. Let's take this journey together. Number 1, deep independence over conventional closeness. Sigma males nurture love in a way that is both rare and refreshing. They stay grounded in self-sufficiency. Unlike individuals who step into relationships out of loneliness or a need to fill emotional voids, the Sigma male approaches love from a place of inner stability. He is whole on his own, and this makes his presence in a relationship intentional rather than obligatory. Psychologists often point out that dependency in relationships can create imbalance, where one partner carries the weight of providing constant validation or security. The Sigma male, however, flips this script. He understands that genuine love is not about clinging to someone for fear of being alone, but about choosing to share space, time, and energy with someone who enriches his life. This is why his presence carries so much weight. When he's there, it's because he genuinely wants to be, not because he needs to be. Historically, some of the most influential figures who exhibited Sigma-like traits, think Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein, thrived in solitude yet formed deep connections when they did engage, proving that independence does not mean isolation. In fact, studies in relationship psychology reveal that partners who maintain individuality often experience healthier, longer-lasting bonds because they avoid the toxic cycle of codependency. The Sigma male embodies this balance by being self-reliant but emotionally available. His strength lies in the paradox of not needing love to survive, but choosing to give it freely, making his affection deeply authentic. In modern culture, where social norms often pressure people to equate constant availability with love, the Sigma male redefines intimacy. His love is steady, quiet, and intentional, grounded in the truth that commitment without dependency creates freedom within the relationship. This doesn't mean he is detached or unfeeling. On the contrary, his independence allows him to love with clarity, without the cloud of desperation or insecurity. He knows that the best partnerships are built when two complete individuals come together, not two halves searching to be whole. This mindset transforms his relationships into something more than romance. They become partnerships rooted in mutual respect and growth. By staying grounded in self-sufficiency, the Sigma male shows that the truest form of love is not born from need, but from choice, and that choice is what makes his presence so profoundly powerful. Number 2, selective intimacy, not constant togetherness. Sigma males often puzzle people because of the way they approach connection. Unlike more outwardly expressive personalities, they don't see the point in constant displays of affection or performative closeness. For them, relationships are not about filling silence with chatter or gestures meant to reassure others every 5 minutes. Instead, they save their affection for when it truly matters, creating moments that feel authentic rather than routine. This is why being close to a Sigma often feels deeply meaningful, because their attention isn't scattered, it's intentional. Their absence shouldn't be mistaken for neglect or emotional coldness. Rather, it reflects a thoughtful guarding of space that allows them to preserve their independence and inner balance. Psychology highlights that individuals with introverted or contemplative tendencies often need solitude to recharge their mental energy. Sigmas embody this principle to an extreme, treating alone time as essential rather than optional. In fact, studies on interpersonal dynamics suggest that when people balance personal space with moments of genuine closeness, their relationships tend to be more sustainable and less prone to burnout. A Sigma's restraint actually prevents superficiality, ensuring that when they do engage, it carries weight. Picture someone who rarely says, "I love you," but when they do, it's under circumstances that make the words unforgettable. That's the Sigma's way. Their guarded space isn't a wall to keep people out, but a filter to let the right people in, and at the right times. This can be both frustrating and refreshing for those around them. Frustrating because society often conditions us to equate affection with frequency, but refreshing because it strips away the noise and keeps only what is real. Even in professional settings, Sigma males display this same quality. They won't crowd others with unnecessary meetings or empty praise. But when they speak up, it is usually sharp, insightful, and impactful. In an age of oversharing and constant digital noise, their scarcity of expression makes their presence feel rare and valuable. To understand them is to realize that their silence is not disinterest, but a form of respect for themselves, for their boundaries, and for the people they choose to let close. Ultimately, their way of reserving closeness is not a flaw, but a different rhythm of connection, one that values depth over display and authenticity over routine. Number 3, emotion expressed through actions, not words. A Sigma's love speaks in quiet deeds, small acts, consistent attentiveness, and subtle support. Unlike the loud declarations or performative gestures that some may rely on to showcase affection, the Sigma male operates differently. His care is never about putting on a display, but about being genuinely present. Psychologists often highlight the idea that true intimacy is not built on grand, sporadic gestures, but on reliability and small demonstrations of commitment over time. This aligns perfectly with the Sigma's nature, as he prefers to express his love in ways that are understated yet deeply impactful. For instance, he may not flood your social media feed with declarations of love, but he will remember the little details about your life that matter. Your favorite drink, the way you like your space organized, or the dreams you quietly mentioned months ago. Research on long-term relationships suggests that couples who thrive tend to practice these very habits: attentiveness, active listening, and unspoken acts of service. The Sigma's way of showing love mirrors this evidence, making it not only genuine but also sustainable. What makes his love particularly unique is that it isn't tied to external validation. While some people may use affection as a tool to gain recognition or social praise, the Sigma male gives quietly because it's rooted in his authenticity, not in seeking attention. This makes his affection rare because it's not conditional or self-serving. He may not always use words to articulate his emotions, but his actions, helping you in moments of need, making sacrifices without mentioning them, or offering silent encouragement when you doubt yourself, speak volumes. In fact, relationship experts often note that consistent small gestures, like leaving a note of encouragement or offering undistracted presence, create stronger bonds than occasional dramatic surprises. The Sigma's love style proves that real connection is not about noise, but about depth. It's a love that doesn't scream for acknowledgement, but instead whispers with certainty, "I'm here, I see you, and you matter." For those who experience it, Sigma love feels like a steady flame, never blinding, never fleeting, but enduring and reliable. In a world where so much love is broadcast for show, the Sigma's quiet but steady affection stands out as one of the most authentic forms of devotion. Number 4, preference for honesty over romantic idealism. Romantic gestures may be rare, but sincerity is not, and this distinction is often misunderstood. Many people have been conditioned by movies, novels, and social media to believe that love must constantly be expressed through grand, sweeping gestures, bouquets of roses, surprise getaways, or dramatic declarations under the stars. While these acts can certainly be beautiful, they are not always the foundation of a deep and lasting connection. Research in psychology suggests that genuine communication, emotional honesty, and small acts of consistency often weigh heavier in building trust and intimacy than extravagant gestures. For instance, Dr. John Gottman, a leading relationship expert, found in his decades of studies that couples who thrive long-term are those who prioritize everyday bids for connection, like listening attentively, acknowledging each other's feelings, and offering comfort in small moments. Sincerity is what makes a relationship withstand the test of time because it is not dependent on resources, timing, or performance. It stems from truthfulness. Even silence, when shared sincerely, can communicate more than 1,000 rehearsed words. Think of two people sitting together after a long day. Nothing needs to be spoken, but the unspoken presence says, "I'm here, I care, and I see you." That kind of authenticity cannot be faked, and it builds a foundation of emotional safety. Furthermore, sincerity is accessible to everyone, while grand romantic gestures are often limited by circumstance. A handwritten note, a genuine apology, or a look that says, "I understand you," can penetrate deeper than an expensive dinner. Across cultures, this has always been recognized. Ancient philosophers like Seneca and Confucius emphasized truth and intention in human relationships over material display, reminding us that the heart craves depth, not decoration. When someone values sincerity, they don't need a performance. They need your presence. This is why relationships built on honesty, vulnerability, and consistent communication often last longer and weather storms that more superficial connections cannot. At the end of the day, sincerity is the language of trust, and trust is the soil in which love grows. Romantic gestures may capture attention for a moment, but sincerity captures hearts for a lifetime. And perhaps that is the most romantic truth of all. Love doesn't always need to be loudly expressed to be deeply felt. It simply needs to be real. Number 5, freedom is a love language. In relationships, Sigma males approach love in a way that may seem unconventional but is deeply fulfilling once understood. For them, autonomy isn't something to be feared, it's something to be honored. Unlike many who may equate love with constant presence, control, or reassurance, Sigma males thrive when there's a balance between intimacy and independence. They aren't cold or detached. In fact, they're highly capable of forming deep emotional bonds, but they know that genuine love flourishes in an environment where both partners maintain a sense of individuality. Psychology even supports this idea. Studies in relational science show that healthy partnerships strike a balance between connection and personal freedom, with independence actually strengthening long-term satisfaction. Sigma males embody this principle naturally. They love best when their partner respects their need for space just as much as their need for closeness. To them, suffocating relationships where one person becomes overly dependent feel more like chains than bonds. Instead, they see love as two complete individuals walking side by side, not one half seeking completion in another. This is why they're often misunderstood. What some mistake as aloofness is actually a deep respect for boundaries and mutual growth. In fact, autonomy in relationships has been shown to boost creativity, emotional regulation, and even conflict resolution because both partners come to the table as whole, balanced individuals. For Sigma males, independence doesn't weaken intimacy, it strengthens it. They want to be with someone who not only values the connection, but also nurtures their own goals, passions, and identity outside the relationship. When a partner understands this balance, the relationship becomes both liberating and deeply secure. There's no fear of losing oneself in the bond, because individuality is celebrated, not erased. This kind of love allows both people to grow without limits, and it creates a partnership based on trust, freedom, and genuine respect. In a world where many see closeness as the ultimate sign of love, Sigma males remind us that sometimes the truest intimacy is found in the space where independence and connection coexist harmoniously. Number 6, learning partnership through observation. Sigma males often show their understanding not through long-winded conversations, but through subtle, deliberate action. Unlike more extroverted personalities who may rely on constant dialogue to demonstrate interest, Sigma males are often quiet observers, keenly tuned into the details others tend to overlook. Psychologists suggest that active listening is one of the strongest indicators of empathy, and Sigma males tend to excel in this area. They give their full attention without interrupting, which allows them to pick up on nuances in tone, body language, and word choice. This makes them highly perceptive, and their responses, though fewer in number, carry weight because they are carefully considered rather than impulsively spoken. In social dynamics, this sets Sigma males apart as individuals who value depth over noise and clarity over chatter. For example, while many people may respond quickly to fill silence, a Sigma male will often pause, think, and then provide an answer that reveals not only his understanding of the conversation, but also his ability to connect it to broader insights or real-life solutions. Historically, this quality can be linked to traits found in great thinkers, leaders, and innovators, figures who preferred observation and reflection before acting, such as Nikola Tesla, who was known for his reserved nature and profound ability to see connections others missed. Educational studies on communication styles highlight that non-verbal cues like eye contact and attentive posture account for nearly 55% of effective communication, and Sigma males often excel in this silent yet powerful form of expression. What makes their approach entertaining in its own right is how understated it can be. People often find themselves surprised when the quietest man in the room delivers the most insightful comment or takes the most effective action, reminding us that true understanding doesn't need to be loud to be impactful. In relationships and friendships, this behavior often creates a sense of safety and trust, as others feel genuinely heard and valued rather than brushed aside. It is this ability to listen deeply, notice subtle shifts, and respond with intention that gives Sigma males their enigmatic reputation, seemingly detached on the surface, yet deeply attuned beneath it all. Their silence is not ignorance, it is strategy, reflection, and respect rolled into one. Number 7, quiet loyalty over dramatic proof. Their dedication isn't loud, but it is steady, and that's what makes it so powerful. In a world where people often equate love, loyalty, or commitment with flashy gestures and over-the-top declarations, true dedication can seem almost invisible. Yet history and psychology both show us that consistency is far more reliable than intensity. For example, researchers studying long-term relationships have found that trust is not built overnight through one grand act, but rather through small, dependable behaviors repeated over time. Things like showing up when you say you will, keeping promises, or listening without distraction. This principle extends beyond relationships and into every area of life. Consider athletes who achieve greatness not because of one dramatic training session, but through years of daily discipline, often in obscurity, while no one is watching. Similarly, successful entrepreneurs rarely strike gold overnight. Instead, they build their empires brick by brick through persistence, attention to detail, and the willingness to stay the course when others give up. Even in the natural world, we see the same pattern. Rivers carve valleys not by sudden force, but by steady flowing across centuries. Dedication, then, is less about the noise it makes and more about the stability it offers. A person whose commitment is quiet but unwavering becomes someone others can lean on, because reliability is ultimately more valuable than dramatics. The paradox is that this kind of steady dedication often goes unnoticed in the moment, but it compounds over time, producing results that no short-lived burst of energy could ever achieve. It's a reminder that trust, success, and even love are less about fireworks and more about the slow-burning flame that never goes out. Number 8, love that reflects personal growth, not fixed roles. A Sigma's approach to romance is never static. It matures and deepens as they evolve internally. Unlike those who chase surface-level attraction or temporary validation, the Sigma male tends to view relationships as an extension of his own growth. This doesn't mean he avoids love or detaches from connection, but rather that he sees romance as something built on progress rather than stagnation. Research in psychology suggests that people who actively pursue personal development often foster healthier, more resilient relationships, and Sigma males embody this principle almost naturally. They are introspective, self-reliant, and often unafraid to question themselves, which means their romantic bonds tend to reflect that same honesty and adaptability. For the Sigma, attraction is not just about charm or chemistry. It's about finding a partner who values mutual self-improvement, someone who understands that a relationship thrives when both individuals are constantly becoming better versions of themselves. This makes their love life less about drama or control and more about partnership and growth. In fact, studies show that couples who encourage each other's ambitions and self-discovery report higher long-term satisfaction. A Sigma embraces this dynamic wholeheartedly, often inspiring their partner to rise to higher levels of confidence, independence, and emotional strength. Instead of needing someone to complete them, they seek a bond where both people are already whole, choosing to walk together not out of dependency but out of shared purpose. That's why a Sigma's romance can feel both freeing and profound. It's not a cage, but a catalyst, a connection that mirrors the internal evolution happening within. Their relationships are rarely about fitting societal molds. They're about creating a private world that values authenticity, growth, and the quiet power of two strong individuals building something extraordinary side by side. If Sigma love feels unusual, perhaps that's because it reflects something more elemental, something real. A kind of love that listens in silence, honors the self first, and holds connection in a quiet, steady light. We've explored 8 ways Sigma males redefine romance, not by rejecting love, but by loving on their own deeply considered terms. Maybe the next time you encounter a Sigma love, it won't feel strange. You'll sense the quiet authenticity beneath, and that is the most uncommon and perhaps the most beautiful part of all. Most people don't see it coming. They misread the Sigma male entirely. His silence, mistaken for weakness, his love of solitude, assumed to be loneliness, his calm demeanor, seen as passive, but that's the first and often last mistake people make. Because beneath the surface of a Sigma male is a force that doesn't need to roar to be felt. Sigma males don't need to raise their voices to command attention. Their presence alone speaks volumes. They don't seek validation, approval, or dominance through aggression. Instead, they observe, calculate, and wait. And when the time comes, they act with precision. The reason Sigma males are often feared, even by alphas, is because their power is quiet, internal, and unpredictable. While others are busy posturing, Sigmas are watching, thinking, mastering their surroundings. They live by the quote, "The most dangerous man is the one who observes everything and says nothing." This isn't just poetic, it's psychologically sound. Studies in behavioral psychology reveal that individuals who display high emotional control and minimal outward reaction tend to hold more inner strength and resilience. Sigma males embody this. They can sit through storms, both internal and external, without flinching, because their power doesn't need expression. It's built in. This kind of emotional and psychological control makes people uncomfortable. It creates an unsettling mystery. What is he thinking? What is he capable of? That calm silence becomes the eye of a storm, and everyone around him feels the tension without knowing why. It's not that Sigma males are violent or aggressive, it's that if pushed, their reaction won't be messy. It'll be swift, sharp, and final. That's the real danger. Like a lone wolf, they don't bark to intimidate, they simply bite when needed. So how do Sigma males show they're dangerous? They don't. That's the whole point. You feel it, not through what they say, but in what they don't. And the world can't stop watching because deep down everyone knows. The calmest ones are often the most lethal. Point 1. They master the art of silent dominance. Sigmas don't need to flex, shout, or prove anything. That's rookie behavior. While most people rely on loudness, bravado, or social validation to establish dominance, the Sigma male operates on a completely different frequency, one of calm precision. When others bark and posture, Sigmas are quietly analyzing the room. They observe without reacting, calculate without boasting, and strike only when absolutely necessary. This deliberate detachment isn't weakness, it's power under control. It's the kind of energy that unsettles people, not because it's aggressive, but because it's unreadable. This is where the true danger of a Sigma lies, not in his words, but in his silence. Silence is often underestimated in today's noisy world, but silence in the hands of a self-aware man becomes a weapon. It creates mystery, tension, and curiosity, and people fear what they cannot predict. The average person is accustomed to loud threats and overt displays of power. But when a man stands unshaken, says nothing, yet holds unwavering eye contact, you know something deeper is going on. That's when the fear kicks in, because you're no longer dealing with someone seeking approval. You're dealing with someone who already knows who he is and what he's capable of. It's the stillness before the storm that keeps people on edge. The storm doesn't announce its arrival with noise, it builds in silence. Likewise, the Sigma's presence creates a shift in the atmosphere, not because he demands it, but because others instinctively adjust to it. It's like watching a panther in the jungle. It doesn't need to roar to command respect. It simply exists, and everything else falls into place around it. That quiet confidence is not something you can fake. It's forged in solitude, built on introspection and sharpened through experience. Psychologically, humans are wired to react more strongly to ambiguity than to direct threat. This is known as the fear of the unknown, and Sigmas embody this principle to perfection. Their unpredictability, their refusal to conform, and their emotional self-containment make them walking enigmas. And in a world that constantly tries to categorize people, the Sigma's refusal to fit in makes him all the more intimidating, not because he tries to be, but because his silence speaks louder than anyone else's noise. Point 2, they control their emotions like a strategist. Here's a scary truth. When you can't be emotionally manipulated, you become invincible. And that's exactly the secret power Sigma males possess. In a society where reactions are currency, where outrage fuels clicks and drama drives attention, the man who refuses to be baited stands apart. Sigma males are not emotionally detached, they're emotionally disciplined. That's the difference. While most people explode under pressure or get drawn into arguments to defend their pride, Sigmas pause, observe, and calculate. They don't react, they respond. And that response is often so calm, so unexpected, that it throws manipulators off balance. Imagine this: someone tries to insult or provoke you, expecting anger or defensiveness. Instead, you give them nothing, no raised voice, no twitch of frustration, just silence or a calm nod. That's the Sigma effect. Their emotional control isn't weakness, it's power disguised as indifference. When you're no longer a puppet to someone else's emotional strings, you can't be controlled. And that terrifies people who rely on manipulation to dominate social spaces. This is why Sigmas are often labeled as cold or intimidating. But the truth is, they've simply mastered a level of self-awareness that shields them from toxic entanglements. They've studied the rules of social games, the lies, the guilt trips, the gaslighting, and instead of playing along, they flip the board and walk away. That kind of unpredictability makes people nervous, because most conflicts operate on a predictable script. Poke, provoke, explode. But when the Sigma refuses to play his part, the game collapses. Psychologically, this kind of restraint is linked to high emotional intelligence. Studies show that people with strong emotional regulation are better leaders, better problem solvers, and less prone to anxiety. Sigma males aren't just lone wolves by choice. They've understood that solitude sharpens their emotional sword. While the world is busy reacting impulsively, Sigmas use that stillness to strategize. It's like being in a storm, but remaining dry because you saw the clouds coming and stepped aside before it hit. So yes, a man who doesn't lose his cool is unpredictable. And unpredictable men who can't be emotionally rattled, are dangerous. Not because they're violent or loud, but because they're free. Free from manipulation, free from emotional traps, and free from anyone's control. That kind of emotional armor isn't just rare, it's powerful. And in today's chaotic world, it might be the ultimate form of strength. Point 3. They walk away from what most men chase. There's a silent power that very few men ever master, the ability to walk away without looking back. It's not just about ending a conversation or exiting a relationship, it's about reclaiming one's power by refusing to entertain what no longer serves their mission, their values, or their peace. When a man walks away from validation, attention, or even the magnetic pull of a beautiful woman who disrespects him, he performs one of the boldest power moves in the psychological playbook. He's not storming off in anger or playing mind games, he's simply choosing himself over the illusion of approval. And that right there is what sets a Sigma male apart from the rest. Unlike men who crave validation to confirm their self-worth, Sigma males operate outside the typical social hierarchy. They don't rely on others to define them. They are what psychologists would call internally validated. That means their sense of identity comes from within, not from applause, attention, or being desired. So when they sense disrespect or emotional manipulation, they don't argue, plead, or try to win anyone over. They disengage quietly and firmly, not out of weakness, but out of strength. To outsiders, this kind of detachment seems cold. How could someone just walk away from someone so beautiful, so desirable? But to the Sigma, beauty without respect is like a crown on an empty throne, attractive but meaningless. They view relationships as partnerships, not prizes. And if the energy isn't reciprocated, if dignity is compromised, they don't waste a moment explaining, they simply exit. This behavior is often mistaken for arrogance, but in truth, it's discipline. And discipline is terrifying to those who lack it, because it reflects what they secretly wish they had: self-control, boundaries, and the courage to walk alone rather than stay somewhere they're not valued. In a society that rewards people-pleasing and performance, the Sigma male's refusal to chase or beg disrupts the script. He's not interested in being the loudest, he'd rather be the realist. And his silence speaks volumes. Ultimately, when a man chooses to walk away from attention, validation, or disrespect, he's not losing anything, he's gaining everything: his dignity, his peace, his power. And in a world starving for authenticity, that's not just rare, it's legendary. Point 4, they're dangerously smart and strategic. Sigmas are thinkers, strategists of the highest order. Unlike impulsive individuals who react in the heat of the moment, Sigmas operate with a calm, calculating precision that unnerves even the most confident opponent. These are not men who rush into situations blindly. They observe, they analyze, they understand the terrain, both physical and psychological, before they make a move. What makes them truly dangerous is not how loud they are, but how quiet they can be. In that silence lies a mind constantly at work, decoding body language, dissecting motives, and predicting outcomes with unnerving accuracy. You see, Sigma males tend to have a deep interest in psychology, human behavior, and pattern recognition. This isn't just for show, it's a survival mechanism and a strategic advantage. They're the kind of men who read books on social dynamics, pay attention to micro-expressions, and notice things others miss. While most people are caught up in surface-level conversations or distracted by emotions, the Sigma is mentally 3 steps ahead, mapping out your intentions, cataloging your tells, and formulating a response you won't see coming. Think of a Sigma like a grandmaster playing chess, not just any chess game, but one where he already knows your next 5 moves. That's not fiction, that's strategy, backed by the science of predictive behavior. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the best decision makers are those who delay their responses long enough to analyze multiple variables. Sigmas do this naturally. They don't overreact because they've already seen the end game. While others guess, Sigmas calculate. While others chase, Sigmas observe from the shadows and let patterns unfold. And when it's time to move, they don't shout, they don't flinch. They strike with surgical precision. Their power lies in controlled motion, deliberate and impactful. It's why their actions hit harder than words ever could. A Sigma doesn't need validation, applause, or approval. His silence is his shield. His intellect is his weapon. And his understanding of people, that's the trap you won't even realize you walked into until it's too late. So if you ever find yourself face to face with a Sigma, don't mistake his quiet for weakness or his distance for indifference. He's not checked out. He's simply watching, learning, and waiting. Because when he finally moves, it's never by accident, it's by design. Point 5, they don't fear being alone. Loneliness is often seen as a punishment, a harsh and empty space where people feel abandoned or forgotten. But for the Sigma male, it is anything but a curse. It is power. Solitude is not just a quiet backdrop to their life, it is their training ground. In a world obsessed with noise, validation, and constant social interaction, the Sigma male chooses silence. And in that silence, he grows stronger. While many struggle with the weight of being alone, Sigmas use it as an opportunity to sharpen their minds. Psychological studies show that solitude, when chosen rather than imposed, boosts creativity, self-awareness, and mental clarity. This is exactly why the Sigma thrives in isolation. With no one to impress and no distractions to dilute their focus, they dive deep into introspection. They examine their goals, dissect their failures, and design their next move with surgical precision. Their thoughts become weapons, honed to a razor's edge in the stillness most people run from. You see, Sigmas don't fear being alone because they don't need external validation to define their worth. Unlike alphas who lead the pack and betas who follow it, Sigmas walk alone, not out of weakness, but by choice. Their independence is not just a trait, it's a lifestyle. And that's what makes them so powerful. You can't control a man who doesn't fear being disconnected from the crowd. Try to bribe him with attention. He doesn't need it. Try to manipulate him with exclusion. He prefers it. His solitude makes him immune to emotional blackmail. This is exactly what terrifies those who feed off constant approval and connection. People who rely on groupthink and collective ego can't understand how someone can thrive outside the system. To them, silence is dangerous because it represents freedom, freedom from conformity, expectation, and control. The Sigma male, with his self-contained strength and unshakable independence, becomes a threat to the status quo simply by refusing to participate in it. So while the world keeps scrolling, posting, liking, and chasing fleeting validation, the Sigma remains still, alone but never lonely, isolated but never disconnected from his purpose. And when he steps out of that solitude, he does so sharper, calmer, and more focused than ever, because for him, loneliness was never a prison, it was a forge. And in it, he has become something few truly understand, a man who doesn't need the world to know his name in order to make an impact. Point 6. They speak last, but with finality. Sigmas are a breed apart, not interested in the noise, the spotlight, or the exhausting game of one-upping others in a room full of egos. While most people rush to speak first, to dominate the conversation, to flex their intelligence, or to assert their dominance, the Sigma male watches quietly from the sidelines. He lets the chaos unfold, the heated debates, the emotional outbursts, the clash of opinions. It's all just background noise to him. He understands something that most don't. Energy is a limited resource, and timing is everything. So while others waste their breath trying to win arguments or score points, the Sigma conserves his. He's not silent because he has nothing to say. He's silent because what he has to say will matter more when spoken at the right moment. This is a tactic rooted in psychology and even ancient strategy. Think of Sun Tzu's, where he writes, "He who knows when he can fight and when he cannot will be victorious." Sigmas live by this principle, choosing not to engage unless there's something worth engaging in. They play the long game. And when they finally speak, just once, calmly and confidently, the room listens. Not because he demanded attention, but because his words carry weight. There's real science behind this effect. Studies in communication psychology show that people who speak less but more meaningfully are often perceived as more intelligent and authoritative. It's called the less is more effect, and Sigmas use it instinctively. Their words are precise, thoughtful, often layered with wisdom that cuts through the noise. It's not showmanship, it's substance. And the result? A kind of hush that follows their voice. Not awkward silence, but the heavy silence of realization. That's when people get quiet. Not because they were defeated, but because they've just been exposed to truth in its most potent form. And what happens next is both subtle and powerful: respect and a little fear. Not fear of violence, but fear of what else this quiet observer might know, might say, or might do if pushed. That's the power of restraint and timing. Sigma males don't seek to dominate. They simply embody such calm control that others naturally fall in line. It's not the roar of a lion that shakes the forest. Sometimes it's the silent stare that makes the wolves back down. Point 7. They set boundaries without apologies. You know what's truly dangerous in today's world? A man who says no and doesn't flinch. In a society where peer pressure, guilt-tripping, and social manipulation run rampant, the ability to calmly reject what doesn't serve you is a rare and formidable power. Sigma males have mastered this art. They operate with an inner compass so strong that external opinions barely shake them. When a Sigma male says no, it's not out of rebellion or ego, it's from a place of clarity. They've already weighed the cost of saying yes and chosen the path of self-respect instead. These men treat their time, energy, and values like a vault, sealed tight and only accessible to those who've earned the key. You won't catch a Sigma justifying his choices to win approval or soften the blow. He doesn't explain, he doesn't defend, he simply decides. And this stoic decisiveness can be deeply unsettling to people who rely on emotional influence or social conformity to get their way. Psychologically, this type of detachment is linked to high emotional intelligence and self-regulation. Sigma males tend to score high on autonomy scales, which means they thrive independently and don't need external validation to make choices. They're not driven by trends, approval, or fear of missing out. That's what makes them a force of nature. When you can't be guilted, manipulated, or swayed, you don't just walk through the world. You move through it like a silent storm, calm, controlled, and unstoppable. Point 8, they're unpredictable by design. Sigmas play their cards close to the chest, and that alone unsettles people. Unlike others who crave attention or validation, Sigma males operate on their own terms, guided by an internal compass rather than external approval. This self-reliance creates an aura of mystery. People can't quite figure them out, and that ambiguity becomes deeply unsettling. You never truly know what a Sigma is thinking, planning, or feeling, and that enigma haunts those who are used to reading people like open books. Sigmas move in silence. They show up when they want, disappear when they choose, and when they return, they're sharper, wiser, and more composed than ever before. That kind of unpredictability makes them immune to manipulation. You can't pull strings on a man who doesn't care for the puppet show. In psychological terms, this behavior aligns with high emotional intelligence and internal locus of control, traits that allow them to detach from social pressures and move independently. Society tries to trap men in predictable roles and responses, but Sigmas, they break the mold entirely. You can't trap a man who doesn't follow a path, especially when he's busy carving his own through the wilderness, far from the noise of the crowd. You see, Sigmas aren't loud because they don't need to be. Their presence speaks volumes without ever raising a voice. This isn't about scaring people into submission, it's about earning respect through quiet confidence and unwavering independence. Sigma males defy categorization. They don't fit neatly into society's boxes, and that's exactly what makes them powerful. While the world obsesses over fitting in, Sigmas focus on standing out by living authentically and pursuing truth over trend. They don't crave validation or chase the spotlight. They build their own platforms on their terms. In a noisy world craving direction, Sigma energy is the quiet storm that disrupts the norm. So be the calm in chaos, be the warning in silence, be the storm they never saw coming. And if you're one of them, welcome to the Sigma Brotherhood. Stay sharp, stay Sigma. Sigmas, picture this. It's a crowded office party. Loud music, fake laughs, people clinking glasses over shallow conversations. Everyone's trying to impress someone, but there you are, in the corner, scanning the room with quiet confidence. You didn't come to network, you didn't come to pretend, you came because a colleague insisted, and now 10 minutes in, you're already counting the seconds until you can leave without raising eyebrows. And that's where it hits you again. This world, it makes no sense to someone like you. You observe everything, but engage with little. While others get high off validation, you operate on independence. They trade authenticity for applause. You protect your peace like a vault. Society calls it antisocial, but for you, it's clarity. You don't avoid people because you can't connect. You avoid the noise because you already see through it. While most are wired for tribe and status, your compass points inward. That's not rebellion, that's evolution. Being a Sigma male isn't just a label, it's a lived experience that flips the social hierarchy upside down. Studies in personality psychology show that while alpha and beta behaviors are deeply rooted in group dynamics and social reward systems, Sigma types fall outside that loop entirely. They're lone operators, thriving on autonomy, minimalism, and meaning. You don't chase trends, cliques, or crowns. You walk your own path, even if it's uphill and unpaved. So today we're diving deep into 7 things that make absolutely zero sense to Sigma males, things society worships but you silently reject. Whether it's the obsession with status, the addiction to small talk, or the cult of conformity, we're peeling back the layers with a blend of wit, wisdom, and unapologetic truth. Let's dive in. This one's for the outliers. Number 1, social climbing for validation. Sigmas look at the whole social climbing thing and go, wait, people actually waste energy doing this. While the world rushes to collect followers, business cards, and status symbols, the Sigma male stands back, unimpressed, unaffected, and unmoved. Society has built an entire ecosystem around validation. You're taught that your worth increases with proximity to power, popularity, and prestige. That if you shake hands with the right people, attend the right events, and wear the right mask, you'll finally make it. But Sigmas, they see through that illusion like a pane of glass. The truth is, validation, especially the kind built on shallow metrics, is like junk food. It might give you a quick dopamine rush, but it's empty. It doesn't nourish the soul or satisfy the mind. Sigma males reject this high-calorie, low-substance way of living. Instead of climbing a corporate ladder just to impress others, they build their own blueprint, carve out their own path, and define success on their own terms. They don't orbit power. They become power in solitude. Ironically, the more people chase clout and connection, the more they lose connection with themselves. Studies in psychology have shown that extrinsic goals like fame, money, and image are linked to higher levels of anxiety and lower well-being. Meanwhile, intrinsic goals like purpose, autonomy, and mastery are where true satisfaction lies. And guess who lives in that space? The Sigma. He doesn't walk into a room hoping to be liked. He walks in with such clarity and calm that people can't help but notice. While others scramble for seats at the table, he builds his own table, or better yet, enjoys his meal alone in peace. Sigmas may walk alone, but it's not loneliness. It's freedom. It's purpose. It's anchoring your identity in who you are, not who you're trying to impress. So the next time someone nudges you to network more, just smile and say, I'm not trying to be liked. I'm trying to be legendary. Because legends aren't born from people-pleasing, they're forged in solitude, discipline, and truth. Number 2, small talk over substance. If there's one thing that makes a Sigma male want to vanish into the woods and live among the trees, it's small talk. You know the kind, those painfully shallow exchanges that go nowhere fast. Nice weather today? How about that game last night? Busy weekend ahead? For the average person, this might be polite social grease. But for the Sigma male, it's like spiritual sandpaper, grating, dry, and completely pointless. Sigmas aren't trying to be rude, it's just that their minds are wired for more. They're analytical thinkers and independent souls who find meaning in depth. While others may find comfort in casual banter, Sigmas feel like they're being trapped in a loop of meaningless repetition. For them, every word exchanged should carry weight, spark curiosity, or unlock a new perspective. Conversations about the cosmos, human psychology, philosophy, or even hypothetical theories about time travel, these are the real treasures. Neurologically, this actually aligns with what science tells us about deep thinkers. Studies suggest that individuals with introspective and analytical tendencies have more activity in the brain's default mode network, regions linked to imagination, future planning, and deep reflection. So when a Sigma is stuck in a chat about someone's weekend barbecue plans, you can almost hear that network screaming for stimulation. That's why, when you see a Sigma male nodding during a surface-level conversation, don't be fooled. He might look present, but trust me, mentally he's already 40 years into the future or decoding the psychology behind your word choice. Sigmas are the kind of people who'd rather have one unforgettable, mind-bending conversation in a lifetime than 1,000 forgettable ones in a week. This trait isn't arrogance, it's a hunger for meaning. So the next time you're around a Sigma and you want to connect, skip the weather report. Ask about consciousness, society, or the meaning of life. Then watch as their eyes light up and the real conversation begins. Number 3, posting everything online. Ah yes, the digital circus where people document their lunch, flex their outfits, and perform happiness for strangers. The online world has become a stage, and every scroll reveals another act, curated, filtered, and exaggerated for effect. It's not inherently bad. After all, technology connects us in powerful ways, but to the Sigma male, the spectacle of it all borders on absurd. He watches this performance from a distance, not with disdain, but with detached amusement, like an ancient monk observing a parade of illusions. Sigmas aren't technophobes. They'll use a smartphone, browse the web, maybe even drop a clever post now and then. But what they do is beg for validation. The dopamine-chasing culture of likes, shares, and algorithm-driven approval, that's a trap they see right through. Studies in psychology have shown how social media stimulates the brain's reward system in the same way as addictive substances, yet Sigmas have trained their minds to resist that pull. Their worth doesn't hinge on heart emojis or follower counts. Instead, Sigmas find their validation in the quiet moments, when they've mastered a new skill, completed a personal challenge, or simply sat in stillness and felt content. They understand what philosopher Blaise Pascal meant when he said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Solitude isn't a punishment for them. It's a proving ground. To a Sigma, posting every detail of life to convince others of your value is like shouting into the void and hoping the void claps. It's performative, exhausting, and unnecessary. Why broadcast your every move when the real treasure lies in the doing, not the documenting? While others are busy capturing their lives for strangers to see, the Sigma is out there living his unbothered, unfiltered, and unapologetically off-grid. He knows that authenticity isn't found in pixels or hashtags, but in the choices you make when no one's watching. Number 4, competing for female attention. This is where things get comically absurd. Imagine a group of men practically doing backflips in a gym, not for fitness, not for health, but purely to flex for attention. One's flexing his biceps in the mirror, another's snapping selfies next to rented Lamborghinis, and a third is rehearsing the cheesiest pickup lines ever uttered since the dawn of cringeworthy romance. Some of them even go so far as to sabotage each other, cutting down their own friends, just to gain the upper hand with a woman. It's like watching a modern gladiator arena, only instead of swords and shields, it's protein shakes, gold watches, and desperation. Then enter the Sigma male. No grand entrance, no cologne that precedes him by 5 feet, no loud conversations to get noticed. He simply walks into the room, sits down, and observes. He doesn't compete for the spotlight, the spotlight, precisely because he's not chasing it. And that's what makes women turn their heads. It's not because he's doing something, it's because he's doing. He isn't performing, he isn't strategizing. He's just there, completely at ease with himself. That calm self-assurance is magnetic in a world addicted to noise and approval. Psychologically speaking, this is known as the contrast effect. In a sea of people clamoring for validation, the one who remains unaffected stands out. It's also tied to what behavioral scientists call the law of effort justification. People tend to value what is hard to get. And a Sigma's attention, that's a rare currency. While others shout to be heard, the Sigma whispers, and the whisper gets amplified. His quiet confidence creates a mystery, a kind of gravitational pull. He doesn't ask to be noticed, yet he always is. And ironically, this lack of neediness is exactly what makes others chase him. So while the world keeps spinning on the hamster wheel of flashy distractions, the Sigma sits still and somehow outpaces them all. Number 5, worshipping celebrities and influencers. Here's one that absolutely fries the Sigma brain: celebrity worship. In a world obsessed with fame and followers, millions of people fall under the spell of celebrity culture. They copy outfits worn by their favorite stars, imitate their mannerisms, quote their social media posts like gospel, and even shed tears over celebrity breakups as if they were personally involved. It's a strange modern-day ritual where attention replaces authenticity and popularity is mistaken for wisdom. But for the Sigma male, this kind of behavior doesn't just seem irrational, it's borderline comical. Sigmas operate on an entirely different wavelength. They aren't wired to idolize others for superficial reasons. To a Sigma, true admiration stems from depth of character, not the size of one's fan base. They admire integrity, independence, and originality, not the ability to trend on a timeline or get papped at some exclusive party. Sigmas understand that just because someone is well-known doesn't mean they are well-rounded. In fact, the louder the crowd cheers for someone, the more skeptical the Sigma becomes. What did they do to deserve this level of adoration? Instead of scrolling through celebrity updates or mimicking influencers, Sigmas channel their energy inward. They are their own role models. Growth for them is an internal pursuit, not a competition for the spotlight. They ask questions like, am I better than I was yesterday? Not, how many people liked my latest post? This mindset allows them to remain grounded while the rest of the world gets caught in a digital tornado of envy and validation. Take Clint Eastwood, for example. A real-life Sigma icon. You wouldn't find him thirsting over fame or posting selfies for clout. Eastwood built his legacy on grit, not glitter. His stoic characters and real-life demeanor embodied that rare combination of strength and silence. You get the feeling he'd rather ride solo into the desert than chase attention in a room full of flashing cameras. That's the Sigma code: action over applause, values over vanity. In a culture that constantly tells you who to admire, Sigma males hit the mute button. They don't just reject idol worship, they redefine what it means to be admirable. It's not about who shouts the loudest, it's about who walks with purpose, stays true to themselves, and makes silence look powerful. While the crowd chases stars, Sigmas become the unseen force, charting their own constellations. Number 6, forced teamwork and fake collaboration. Let's talk about the glorified maze of corporate nonsense. Team building exercises, trust falls, Two truths and a lie icebreakers. Group brainstorms with whiteboards and colorful sticky notes. Zoom calls where 12 people take turns rewording the same sentence while the only person who actually has a solution sits on mute, waiting for the meeting to end. These rituals are often paraded as signs of modern workplace innovation, but for Sigma males, they're just noise, organized chaos disguised as productivity. Sigmas aren't against people, they're just against pointless performance. They operate with laser focus in silence, thrive in solitude, and believe in the power of self-reliance. Give them a mission, some space, and the freedom to work their way, and they'll execute it flawlessly, without needing a team chant or a post-it war room. Where others need validation, Sigmas need clarity. Where others seek consensus, Sigmas seek results. This isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. And that's what corporations often fail to understand. The modern work culture often idolizes collaboration to the point of dysfunction. Studies in organizational psychology have shown that excessive collaboration can actually reduce productivity due to social loafing, groupthink, and time wasted in unnecessary meetings. But the system keeps reinforcing it because it likes progress. Sigmas see through that illusion. They understand that not every task requires a village. In fact, some tasks are too delicate, too focused, too creative, or too precise to survive the compromise of committee thinking. So when a Sigma rolls his eyes at the next mandatory fun event or the 10th brainstorming session for a decision that should have been made yesterday, it's not cynicism, it's wisdom. They've realized what many still refuse to accept. Too many cooks don't just spoil the broth. They burn down the kitchen, spill the ingredients, and then schedule another meeting to discuss cleanup. A Sigma would rather take the recipe, head to a quiet kitchen, and whip up a gourmet dish solo. No fluff, no fuss, just mastery in motion. They know when to work with others, but more importantly, they know when not to. In a world that rewards noise over results, the Sigma stands as a quiet rebel, proving that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to simply get the job done, alone. Number 7, living for the weekend. Here's the final absurdity. People dragging themselves out of bed on Monday, faces dull, energy low, already counting down the hours until Friday evening. It's become a cultural norm to loathe the work week and worship the weekend. Memes celebrate it, coffee mugs groan with it, and office chatter revolves around surviving until Saturday. But to a Sigma male, this is nothing short of lunacy. It's a system that makes no sense. Why would anyone willingly design a life they constantly need to escape from? Sigma males question everything, especially routines that everyone else accepts blindly. They see the traditional 9-to-5 grind not as a rite of passage, but as a trap, an endless loop of delayed gratification. Why endure 5 days of burnout just to earn 2 days of semi-freedom? This math doesn't add up to a Sigma. It's like exchanging the majority of your life for brief glimpses of joy. That's not living, it's surviving. Instead, Sigma's craft lives with intention. They build careers around passions, not paychecks. They reject mindless hustle and seek meaningful productivity. Studies have shown that people with greater autonomy in their work report higher job satisfaction, reduced stress levels, and better overall well-being. Sigma males embody this principle. They don't compartmentalize their joy to weekends. They weave purpose into their everyday. Whether it's a Tuesday morning hike, a midweek creative project, or learning something new on a quiet Thursday night, every moment matters. The irony is, while most people wait for the weekend to feel alive, Sigmas are fully awake every day. Their schedule doesn't control them, they control their schedule. They've stepped off the hamster wheel and carved out a path where fulfillment isn't postponed. And here's the real kicker. They're not longing for Friday night to breathe. They already own every sunrise. Each morning is not just a beginning, it's an opportunity to move in alignment with their goals, values, and vision. While others are hitting snooze and dreading the commute, Sigmas are already ahead, mentally, spiritually, and often literally. In a world that celebrates escape, Sigmas choose engagement. They don't live for the weekend, they live with purpose. So Sigmas, here's the raw truth. This world may never make sense to you, and that's your superpower. You weren't made to fit in, you were forged to stand out. While the masses chase trends, approval, and the illusion of belonging, you instinctively move in the opposite direction. You question what others accept. You walk away when most would cling. This is not defiance for its own sake, it's clarity. a clarity that comes from seeing the world for what it is. Loud, chaotic, and often hollow. But here's the educational twist. The very traits that isolate you are the same ones that have defined history's most legendary minds. Nikola Tesla, Bruce Lee, Steve Jobs, they were all misunderstood, all intensely focused, all lone wolves who shook the world. What set them apart wasn't just their genius, it was their refusal to conform. They thrived because they leaned into their unique wiring, not despite it. In psychology, this is often associated with the concept of high self-monitoring versus low self-monitoring. Sigmas fall into the latter. They don't adjust who they are just to blend in with the environment. Instead, they bring the environment to them or move through it untouched. That's why when you walk into a room, people notice, not because you're loud, but because your silence speaks volumes. You're not seeking validation. You already know your worth. This is why embracing your difference isn't a rebellion, it's alignment. Elevating your path means choosing depth over noise, solitude over approval, and mastery over popularity. You're not here to follow the world's blueprint. You're here to draw a new one with sharp edges and unshakable resolve. So stay misunderstood. It means you're ahead of your time. Stay dangerous, not to others, but to the status quo. Stay uncommon, because average was never the goal. If that hit deep, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the pack. We're not just building a community. We're creating a silent revolution. Stay true, stay sharp, stay Sigma.